After scoring a fairly long interview with Jed Hoyer the other day, David Kaplan surprisingly also managed to get Cubs chairman Tom Ricketts in for an interview. Can't wait to push back on what I'm sure is going to be some BS here. Let's go.
Thanks for coming in.
Happy to be here. Good to see you.
So I'm going to ask you this. You are as visible an owner as there is in Chicago sports, maybe the most visible owner in the history of Chicago sports. Do you ever wish you were anonymous again?
No, not at all. Like,
You hear how his voice went up there? That was a lie.
Did they ever get after you?
16 years pretty much, and I've never really had a problem. We've had some funny conversations though. I mean, guy comes up, "Hey Ricketts, why is it $5 for a Pepsi?" And I'm like, "Well,
I like that it's Hey Ricketts too."
Yeah, right. Hey Ricketts, why is it $5 for a Pepsi? I'm like, well, dude, why is it $20 million for a starting pitcher? Right. I mean, that's a good question too.
Why is it $20 million for a starting pitcher? Seriously? He's not even trying to cover up the fact that he abhors spending that kind of money on players. If you really have this big of an aversion to spending what the market dictates, you should not be an owner.
In terms of social media, do you have a ghost account where nobody knows that you're on Twitter, but you can read all the stuff? If you don't, your kids come to you go, they are crushing you on social media. Does it bother you?
Honestly, I turned off my social media a couple years ago. Ultimately, you're not going to find a lot of positive feedback in there no matter what you do.
I bet you turned it off. Honestly, I can't really blame him on this because the majority of fans, I'm sorry to say, are not very bright. I've been a Cub fan all my life, and like to consider all other Cubs fans my brothers and sisters, but also being on social media myself, and seeing some of the things other fans say and think, and getting into debates with some of them, is excruciating because of how ignorant many are. Apologies, but I'm just being honest.
So when you spent we'll call it $238 million on payroll last year. And that doesn't include the rest of baseball ops. So that's $300 million or whatever the number is. And then you hear people go, their Cubs are cheap. They don't spend. Does it bother you? Do you feel like you have to educate people, or nope, we just do our deal?
Well, I don't know if it bothers me. I understand that people don't know all the finances in baseball, but we're always kind of redlining. We're putting everything back on the field.
Okay, he's correct in that we, as fans, don't know all the details of their internal finances, but there is plenty of information about their revenue that we can see, and it does appear that they are not spending all they could. If the Ricketts family as owners are really struggling this bad to spend any more money on the team, and they truly are redlining like he just said, then there are only two logical conclusions to that. One, you are a poor businessman and are incapable of generating the necessary revenue to run the team as a top 5 payroll team every year the way you should. And two, sell the team to someone that can run them the way they should be run, like a Steve Cohen type. If you, Tom Ricketts, are really the big fan you say you are, this should not be a hard decision. You and your family will make a handsome profit from the sale of the team, and you can put the team in the hands of someone you know will run it properly. Of course, we know he isn't going to do this, but they should.
I think that where it bothers me a little more is someone says, "Hey, the Ricketts are cheap," and I'm like, "Well, dude, we just put $1 billion into the neighborhood out of our own pocket." So it's not like you can say that. Really can't say we're cheap. I think we've invested more in our ballpark and our neighborhood than any other team.
Okay, this point really bothers me. Yes, we all know how much money you invested into turning the area surrounding Wrigley Field into Disneyland. But let me tell you a secret. None of the true fans care about any of that. All we care about is winning the World Series as often as possible. That's it. So if you invested your personal money into Wrigley's surroundings, and that investment is not bearing the type of fruit you expected, again, that means you made a poor business decision. And secondly, it was completely unnecessary. The money you invested into Wrigley Field itself was needed, ensuring that the park was updated so it can remain for decades to come. But all the other nonsense surrounding the field wasn't needed. All that stuff could have remained just the way it was, and as long as you're winning on the field, nobody will care about the rest. Winning cures all ills.
In your opening press conference, you said Your top two goals were winning the World Series and preserving Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
You've done both. So what motivates you now as chairman going forward?
Just got to win. I think that, it's doing everything we can to make sure we're consistently putting a winning team on the field. And I just want to know every year going into the season that we have a very good chance of winning our division.
Ugh, here we go again with this just winning the division nonsense. No, no, no. He hasn't been shy about his MO for running the team. Do just enough to sneak into the playoffs and hope the team gets hot right at that exact moment. It's the most idiotic reasoning I've ever heard. You can do more than that to field a winning team, but it requires you to spend more money, which we know you don't want to do. As I've said ad nauseum, spending more does not guarantee anything because there are no guarantees in sports. But spending more can skew the odds in your favor more than they would be otherwise. But you either can't or won't go down this path, thus returning me to the idea that you should sell the team to someone that will do this.
There's a famous quote from Joe Lacob, who owns the Golden State Warriors. He said, I tell my guys in his management team, I don't care what the rules are. Your job is to try and win championships. Figure it out. That's all I care about. There are people who go, I don't know, the Cubs really, are they all in? You know that you're all in,
Mm-hmm.
but the perception sometimes to fans might be different. Do you tell your guys, hey, if we don't win the World Series, the season was a failure. It might have been a fun season. We failed at our goal.
Well, I mean, you can put out big, bold statements, and say stuff like that. But ultimately, for us, like I said, I mean, every year it's playoffs. We got to make the playoffs. We got to win our division. Like, you can't say if you don't win don't win the World Series, it's a failure. I mean, I guess technically that's true to some extent.
Yes, every season you don't win the World Series is a failed season. And you can see he's very uncomfortable with that narrative because that defines an owner that truly is all in, which he consistently demonstrates he is not.
Think about teams you want to emulate, like teams that have had more consistent success, and maybe not so recently, but the Cardinals for so many years, they got in with 85 win teams, 87 win teams, and they went all the way. So or you talk about Diamondbacks just 2 years ago.
You see here, he very clearly proves he wants the Cubs to operate like a mid-market team, as he points out the Cardinals and the D-bags as examples of what he wants the Cubs to do. Those teams don't spend big money, and he doesn't want to either. Operating like a mid-market franchise is fine if you are the Seattle Mariners, but not when you are the Chicago Cubs. Third largest market in the country, and third most generated revenue in baseball. No, Tom Ricketts, no. I'm going to stop there. I encourage you to listen to the rest of the interview, where he touches on topics such as making sure we have enough pitching depth, which is code word for cheap. That drives me crazy. This interview didn't provide anything surprising from Ricketts. He's simply confirming what I've been saying for quite a long time now.